Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today we're going to be modeling the Tiger 2 tank. Now, I've already got my blueprint set up here in the background. Now, if you don't know how to do this correctly, I have a separate video that I already made on how to set up some background references like this. And I'm going to put the link to that in the description, so be sure to check that out if you want to learn how to do that. And I've also got my references on the side here. These are just images that I pulled out from the internet so that I can look at them as we were modeling. Now we're going to take our default cube, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to align that with the edges that we can see in the blueprint to shape the hull, okay? So we're going to shape the top and the bottom. Let's do that from front view. Okay, this is going to be the top plate and the bottom plate. And we're also going to scale that inwards just so it has the right width, like that, okay? Let's check it from side view. And from side view, it's also correct. Now in the back here, we're gonna want to do this part from top view. Okay, so let's align these edges over here in the back like this, and then from top view, we're gonna want to check that we have the right distance in the back, because as you can see, we just aligned it in the back, but when we look at it from the top view, it's not perfectly aligned and it's kind of sticking too far out. That's something to do with this armor on the side. It looks different from the sides, but that's no problem for now. We're just gonna align it with this edge right there. Now we also have to create this front part, this kind of slope in the front and the bottom of the front. So we're just gonna add a loop cut right there. And in front view, we're gonna line that front edge with this line right here. And then in top view, we're gonna just bring that forward and make sure that everything aligns. We're also gonna have to bring this edge forward a little bit like this. And then we're gonna take this edge that we already pulled forward a little bit and pull it all the way to the front like that, okay? And maybe we can also adjust the lower edge over here. It's kind of hard to see. You can't really see it on the blueprint, but we can kind of guess that it's going to be something like this, because it compares pretty well to this picture we have right here. Something like that. Okay. And now the other thing that we have to do are going to be these metal parts, or this part of the hull which is above the tracks. Okay. This is a little bit tricky. We're going to add another loop cut for that. And from the front, we're going to align it with the top of this mudguard or this skirt right here, like that. And then in the back, we're going to try to do the same thing with this line right here. As you can see, it's kind of backward sloping or downward sloping. So we got to make sure that it aligns with the same line as we aligned it here in the front. Okay, something like that. Once again, it's not exactly completely the same from the side as it is from the front. So we're just going to kind of estimate a little bit. But for the most part, this is what this shape looks like. Okay. Now let's add a loop cut down the middle. Let's delete one half of this shape. And we're doing that because we want to add a mirror modifier on this side right here. And let's see if that's correct for now. Yes, it's correct. And then we're going to take this face from the side and we're going to extrude that outwards until it gets to this point here. And then we're going to take the bottom two edges of that face, or the bottom edge of that face, and we're going to push it out a little further. And now, as you can see, this back edge over here still has to go a little bit further out, just so it aligns correctly over here. So we can just make sure that it's aligned correctly from front view, because we want to make sure that these two lines are completely overlapping each other, that they're completely aligned like that. And that's going to give us the shape that we need for the side of the hull. Okay, so now we have that on both sides. And now the next thing we're going to create is going to be the armor on the side, which is this skirt stuff that's covering the tracks. And to do that, we can maybe just use this face right here. Let's try how that's going to work for us. This face right here. And we're going to use that to extrude the other parts of this skirt. Okay, we're going to use that edge over here on the side, like that. Now, this part is pretty flat, so we're going to have to bring that inwards a little bit. Maybe we'll just completely flatten it, like that. And that's going to be the side shape of our skirt, like that. And then the other edge, let's get rid of this middle edge. Let's use the other edge. Let's just bring it outwards a little bit. Or no, we won't do that yet because we're going to use that later for the mudguard in the front. But we're going to create two more edges like this. Two more edges like this. Or one more loop cut like that. And actually, it's probably better if we remove this, because then we can use this edge to just extrude out the upper part of the skirt. Okay, let's go to front view and make sure that this aligns as well with the hull of the tank that we just created. And we're going to take a couple of these vertices and just make sure that they're not they're not clipping through the rest of the object here. Something like that, okay? And now we're going to go ahead and create a couple of loop cuts. Or not yet. Let's first shape the rest of this skirt. Okay, this part. And also we're going to extrude the other part downwards like this. And then it's going to give us the very basic shape of our skirt for now. Now the next thing we're going to have to do here is we're gonna have to find a way to correctly make these little covers, these little connectors for the separate plates on this skirt, okay? So really the way to do that will be, since it's all just a slope here, would just be to make one and then to duplicate it enough times so we can have the rest, okay? So let's do that. Let's take these couple of edges right here. Let's place them in the back over here, okay? Let's make sure that everything is correctly aligned there. I'm gonna have to bring this out a little bit. On the x-axis, we're gonna have to push it outward so that it comes out here. Then we can just extrude that a little bit so that it has a little bit of width like that. Like that. And then if we take that, we're gonna separate it to a new object, by the way. And maybe we're also gonna take this little edge on the side and push it down a little bit more. We're gonna take that, extrude it, and with Alt-S, we're gonna give it some solidity right there, like that. And let me also enable my screencast keys right there so you guys can see what I'm doing as we're working. And then maybe we're also going to bevel some of these. So let's do that on the skirt first. And we're going to bevel the edges a little bit just to give them a little bit more detail like that. And then if we do that on the connecting piece as well, it's going to look much nicer like that. Okay. So we're going to take a couple of these and we're going to duplicate them on a couple more places. Okay. We have one here and we're going to duplicate it one more time, bring it in the back over here and make sure everything aligns correctly. Bring it one more time to the back over here. This one seems to be a little bit more rotated. Okay, something like that. Needs to have a little bit of an angle over there. We're going to bring that there a little bit forward. And we're also going to have to push it outwards by a little bit because we have a slightly different angle on this part of the skirt. So we're going to push this back some more and make sure it aligns at the bottom here as well. Okay, something like that on the x-axis. And we're going to do the same thing over here. You can see we have to pull it out a little bit. It's not perfect, but we don't want to spend too much time on these. Otherwise, this video will just go on forever. And then we have one more here in the back. One more here in the back. We'll bring it down just a little, push it backwards, and then take this part and push it forward just so it comes out like that. And now we can just try to make sure that all these are joined together as the same object. And then we're going to also bring them up so that they align with this edge right here. Okay, so we place our 3D cursor on this edge right here. And we select all the vertices at the bottom of these connectors and we scale them up to 0 with the 3D cursor as a pivot point. And now we have a couple of separators like that. Let's remove the doubles and all that stuff. We're going to set some smooth shading to that and we're going to add some auto smooth just so it looks a little bit nicer, 45 degrees like that. And now we have this front part. We want to take care of that because we need to make sure that it's angled correctly like this. Okay. Something like that. And we're also going to just bring all this backwards a little bit by sliding it so it fits there. And now the next part we're going to make is going to be the mudguard in the front. Okay, and in order to do that, we're going to take another edge from over here. Take another edge there. And then we're going to create another vertex in here. Or maybe it's better if we just use this edge from over here. Let's do that. This edge from over here, I'm going to extrude that forwards. And bring it to the front like that. Let's go back to using our median point as a pivot point. And we're going to extrude it downwards. And that's going to give us this kind of a shape that we need for the mudguard. And we're going to bevel this edge now, just so it gives us the right kind of bent, beveled circular shape here in the front, okay? And now what we need to do is extrude the side of this mudguard and bring it out so it kind of aligns with this shape over here, okay, for the skirt. And let's see if we maybe push that too far out. It seems that everything is okay. So we're going to try to kind of align this with this part of the skirt. Okay, so we're going to place our 3D cursor there. And we're going to scale it down towards the 3D cursor just to kind of try to simulate that angle a little bit. Like that. And let's see, we have something going on here with the side of the skirt. So we're going to add a loop cut right there and another loop cut right there so that we can bring this edge upwards. And then we're going to scale the mudguard down towards that with its face in the end. Okay, so we're going to extrude it and scale it to 0 towards the 3D cursor over there. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap because we're going to place another kind of connector over here. So we're going to cover this gap later. And now we have more or less the shape that we need for the mudguard. And maybe we can merge this all into one face for now, just to make it a little bit easier to bevel some of the edges like this. We're going to take these two edges and we're going to bevel those the same way we did with the skirt, just like that. And now let's also take a couple of these faces and vertices from the back and let's bring that to the front like that. And we're going to use that to cover up this ugly gap that we created between the mudguard and the rest of the skirt. So we're going to bring this forward a little bit as well, like that, and then that should give us the right shape. Maybe we could extrude it one more time just to kind of cover up some more of the mess we have here. But let's not even worry about that too much. Something like that. No, we don't want to do that because it's going to be sticking out too much. But let's just leave it like that for now, okay? It doesn't even matter too much. Now let's join the mudguard and the skirts together into one object. And then we're also going to have to fill this shape in, okay? Let's take this vertex, bring it down like this. And then we're also maybe going to give this a small bevel. We're not going to do that because we want this angle right there. And then we're going to take everything, extrude it, and solidify it with Alt-S. But we have to make sure all our normals are correct. So correct the normals with Shift-N. Extrude, and right-click, and then Alt-S to add some thickness to this to these shapes, like that. All right, now we can go ahead and shade this smooth again and add some auto smooth. And now we have a nice side armor on our Tiger tank. Now let's move on to the next major component here, which is going to be our turret. We're going to create a simple shape for that. And to do that, we're going to make a cube. And we're going to delete the bottom half because we don't need that for now. And first, we're going to try to match the length of this turret like this, okay? And now once we have the length, we're also going to create a loop cut in the middle, and we're going to widen it a little bit. And we're going to try to match the width of this shape as well. We're going to have to make this a little bit wider because this edge is going to have to be beveled with a pretty large bevel. And then we're going to do this as well on the back like this. So now we match the bottom part of the turret, which is a little bit wider than the top part. Okay. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take the edges from the top and we're going to move them inwards. We should make a loop cut there so we can duplicate it later. I'm going to take some of these edges from the top here. And we're going to move them inwards so that they match the turret like that as well. So now they match the top part of the turret. And then we're going to duplicate that over to the other side as well. So we're going to delete one half and then copy the other side and scale it to -1 over the 3D cursor there. And now if we just create a bevel here in the middle, it's going to give us that nice shape. It's going to give us that nice curve right there that we have, something like that, okay? We're going to create a few more edges on that bevel, like that, okay? And now we also want to make sure that our front is aligned correctly. So let's go to side view, take this down, and then we're going to take this vertex from the front, and we're just going to push that downwards and align it with the front of the turret like that. And we're going to do the same thing in the back, like so, okay? And then maybe we can also lift this up a little bit. So now this is approximately the shape that we need for our turret. And we're also going to add some smooth shading to that. We're going to auto smooth that approximately 30, 45 degrees, something like that. And now we can go ahead and create some other little details over here on the top. Like maybe we'll make this little hatch that we have. 32 vertices is going to be enough. Let's place that circle and see if we can align that with our blueprint, just like that, okay? And we're going to use that circle. We're going to extrude it outwards like that. Let's have a look at what's going on over here. So we want to bring that up a little, bring it inwards, and then we're going to bevel it a little bit like that. As you can see, this is kind of the shape that we have on the top here. And then we have some other kind of, we have a few of these little viewports or little windows. I don't know what those things are. But we're going to create those with some small cubes, okay? Create a small cube like that. Give it a little bit more width, something like that. I think it should still be a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to create one of those. Let's zoom in on that and see what's going on. I'm going to bevel its edges a little bit. And then we're going to take this face down. And we're going to insert a face over here. And then we're going to extrude that inwards. And that's going to give us our first little viewport that we have over here. So now we're going to copy that a couple of times. Because as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They go all the way around. Let's assume that there's 8 of them. Maybe we'll just assume that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 8 of them. We can count them in the image. Maybe we could have done that from top view as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in this image. But I'm going to go with 8 because that's an easier angle to calculate with. Let's do 1. Let's place our 3D cursor over here. And we're going to rotate it by 180 degrees. And then as you can see, it's not perfectly aligned. So we're going to have to correct that a little bit here in this little hatch. Or this little viewport. So we're going to rotate that by 180. Then one more time by 90 degrees. And one more time by 45 degrees. And now we have these little viewports in every single direction. Let's join that all into one object and add some smooth shading and auto smooth as well to 45 degrees. And then we can just add a large kind of circle on top, which is going to be sitting there. I guess that kind of just holds them together. I don't know what that circle does exactly. Who knows anyway. But as you can see, it's a kind of interrupted circle, so it doesn't go all the way around. It just kind of goes somewhere until over here. We're going to delete this back section. We're going to extrude it outwards a little bit. And then we're going to extrude it upwards a little bit, like that. And this is kind of the circular shape that we have there. And maybe if you want to, you can create another little detail on top there using a cube. I'm going to scale that down, scale it down, and then scale it up on the x-axis. It's some kind of a handle for the door, maybe. Who knows what that even is. Okay, we'll just kind of angle it on the y-axis and bring it outwards a little bit and place it somewhere around there. Maybe we can get a better view. Now this is some kind of a door handle, so we'll extrude it one more time. And then we're going to create some little some bevels over here on the side to make it circular. And maybe one more little shape over here, which is going to be kind of like the handle for holding that part. We'll just join that with the rest. For now, that's good enough. Now, we have a few more little shapes over here. So we're just going to hurry up and create those very quickly. We don't want to spend too much time with those. So we're just going to make another circle like this. And we're going to kind of fill that in, shoot it up, shoot it one more time, and maybe we're going to bevel it on top here. I'm not trying to do exactly what we can see in the image here, but I'm just trying to make it kind of similar so that we get as close to the real thing as we can in a reasonable amount of time, right? Like that. And then we have another little hatch here in the back. And to do that, we're going to use a plane like that. Go back to a median point. We're going to use a plane. We're going to scale that downwards and align it with this blueprint that we have over here, or this part of the blueprint that we have over here. And maybe we should scale this down a little more so it doesn't collide with this part. Shoot it upwards a little bit, and then we're going to insert a face there and bring it inwards like that. And let's see what our blueprint says. We have a couple of hinges, and once again, we don't want to spend too much time with those. So maybe we'll just create two small cubes like that, or just one cube first, and then we're going to duplicate it. We have one, and then we're going to have the other right there. And just as an additional detail, maybe we can kind of bevel this edge right here. Okay. And now that's going to give us another little object on the top of the tank right there. This time we're going to have to set a smaller angle for the auto smoothing, because otherwise we're going to have some problems. This is a very odd shape. And we're just going to merge that with the rest of these objects at the top here. 30 degrees. Something like that, right? We can do something like that, and now it doesn't even have any problems with the smooth shading. There we go. Let's see if we can set that to 35. A couple degrees more. We're also going to shade it smooth, just so we smoothen this part over here. And now we have another little viewport over here, another little circle over there, so we can just you do the same thing that we did before to create those. We can duplicate this little viewport and just place it down here. We're going to have to give it some more width, and we're going to place it in the front like that. Bring it downwards, and we have another tiny little circle, so let's just place that one as well while we're at it. Place the circle right there, extrude it upwards, and that's going to be it. Okay, shade smooth. And that's all we're going to do for the turret for the top right now. Let's not spend any more time with that. Now over here in the front, we're going to have to make the gun. Okay. We have a bit of a weird shape going on over there, but let's not worry about that for now. Maybe we can just kind of bring this edge upwards a little, and that's gonna be good enough. And then we're gonna take this plane from the front. We're gonna extrude that upwards, or we're gonna separate that to a new object first. We're gonna extrude it outwards to the front, and then we're gonna add a circle there with, say, 32 vertices. And then we're gonna rotate this circle so that it points in the direction where the gun should be pointing. Okay. From front view, we can kind of decide on what the size of this is going to be. And as you can see, it's not really perfectly in the middle of this turret, in the middle of this tank. So we're going to push it backwards a little bit. And then we're going to extrude it outwards. And then we're going to maybe bevel it just a little bit. Oh, we're not even going to do that. We're just going to let auto smooth take care of whatever needs to be done there. We're going to take this part. We're going to create a bevel on that. And then there's another circle here. Let's see in the front. We have to extrude this like this. or first over here and then over here. But maybe we'll bring this backwards and then give it a kind of a bit of a bevel like that, so it has a smooth shape. And then in the end here, we're going to duplicate this circle and scale it up just a little bit, just so it gives us this ring around the base of the gun. And then we're going to scale it down, take another circle and scale it down, and then extrude it to the front. And this is going to be the other part of our gun here. Okay, one more little ring here in the front. And then we're going to take the other part like that. And then let's go ahead and extrude the rest of our gun. So as you can see, it kind of gets a little bit narrower as we get to the front. Okay, and then we're going to create the end of the gun over there. At the tip of the gun, okay, like that. And then one more time, and then we're going to extrude it upwards, or to the front, and then scale it upwards. And then we're also going to just kind of shape out this little tip of the gun over here. Now we're not going to spend any time trying to model the holes in this gun in the front, which is like the muzzle or something. I don't know what that part is for. We're just going to leave it like this, and we're going to insert a hole there in the middle, and that's going to go towards the back of this gun. We're going to shade that smooth, auto smooth again, and we're going to parent that to the rest of our tank. And now let's go over here to the back of the hull. We have to add a couple more items here in the back, which are going to be some vents. We're not going to spend too much time on those. We're going to try to make them in the same kind of style as we made the top objects over here. Let's have a look at another angle of this tank. I don't really have any pictures of the back of the tank, so this is going to be the best we can get. So we'll create a circle over here, 32 vertices. You can go less than that if you want to save on the polygons. And we're going to place that here in the back. All right. And now we're going to scale it up a little and then extrude it inwards, make a little hole there. And we're going to create a couple of, we're going to have to do something to make this kind of grid on top that kind of covers it. So maybe we're going to take this circle here. Let's separate that to a new object. And then we're going to extrude that inwards like that. And we're going to add a couple of loop cuts, like say 3 loop cuts. And we're going to bevel each of those edge loops. Hold on a second. We're going to bevel each of those edge loops so that they only have a small rim in between. Okay. And now once again, let's separate that to a new object. Let's select everything, and then we're going to go to select. And we're going to go to check or deselect. Now, that doesn't work too well with edges. Let's see how it works with faces. Check or deselect. It doesn't work too well with faces either. I guess we're going to have to do individually for each circle. Okay, select, check or deselect, delete the face. Next one, selected, select, check or deselect, delete the faces. Okay, next one, select it all, then go to select and check or deselect with face mode. Select, where did it go? Check or deselect and delete the faces. And then we're going to join everything back together. And now we have a kind of grid that covers the top of our little exhaust system right there. We can also maybe fill that in with some kind of little cylinder with a bevel like that. Join all that into one object, shade it smooth, and we're going to add some auto smooth to that. Like that. Now we have another little circle in the back here that you can see over here in the image. So let's go ahead and do that. Extrude it upwards, extrude it inwards, and just extrude it downwards a little bit, like that. That circle should be probably a little bit smaller than what we created over here. Let's just kind of scale it down, duplicate it over here, do it again. And we have another circle over here, we'll do that. And we're going to copy this exhaust that we created and bring it to the other side over here as well. Now we also have some more of these systems, but I don't want to spend too much time with that, so we're just going to make a plane. We're going to make a plane like that, and we're going to scale it so that it aligns with the shape of this exhaust grid that we can see here in the back. Okay, scale it upwards, scale it inwards, and scale it down a little bit like that. And then maybe the easiest way to kind of fill this in will be to just take a couple of these edges, separate that to a new object. We're going to take that face, give it some thickness, and then we're going to create an array modifier for that. So we're going to make an array modifier. Let's put that up here with a distance of about 2 or 3. And we're going to multiply that a couple of times and apply that array modifier. And we can just merge that with the rest of the object like that. There we go. Now let's jump over here to the back of the tank, and we're going to have to do something about these covers for the back of the tracks. You can see over here. It's kind of the same thing as a skirt, but it's just in the back of the tank. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did in the front with the mud guards. which means we're going to duplicate an edge from the side here, and we're going to extrude it outwards like this. And now here's a little trick. We probably should have done this earlier to make the skirts on the side of the tank. We already have a mirror modifier, but we're going to go ahead and add a solidify modifier to this as well. Okay, let's correct the normals. And now that we have our solidify modifier, we're going to check even thickness there. We don't have to extrude it later. We can just create the shape using this little plane here, and it's going to automatically add thickness to this shape, which is pretty useful because then we don't have to do it manually, and it's going to do it for us automatically, just like that. And we're also going to extrude it to the side a little, just to cover this part, like that. There's a little bit of a gap here, but I think that's fine because it also looks like that's the same thing going on here in this image. So let's see, maybe we can we'll do something. We can't really bevel this edge, but maybe we can add a loop cut and then bring that backwards a little bit more, like that. But that only makes it look a little bit uglier. So maybe from the side view, we can kind of just take this and bevel it. Take it and bevel it, and then if we add some smooth shading and some auto smooth, maybe that's going to make it look decent. But I think it only makes it look worse. It was much nicer when it was just a right angle like that, even though it's kind of weird on this part, but it doesn't matter too much. Okay, we're gonna bring this edge inwards as well. Bring that in on the x-axis like that, and we can just kind of leave that there. Let's go to our. We have a rear view here. I think it's gonna be just fine. Okay, we're gonna leave that like that, and then we're also going to try to we're gonna take these two edges, separate that to a new object. Okay, and then we're gonna fill them so that they make a triangle like that. We're gonna slide that upwards and slide this, and these are gonna be these parts over here. Okay, and then we can also maybe make a, but we can't really make a loop cut there, but we can just kind of slide these edges backwards and then create some new edges and bring them out so that we can make this other shape, where it kind of goes upwards a little bit more, at a bit more of an angle, you might say. So something like that. Okay, bring it a little bit more forward like that, and like that. And then we're just going to bring this further to the back. Now we also want this to kind of come out a little bit more. Let's go to side view and let's see what we can do about that. We're going to push it out like that, and I think that should be pretty much the shape that we want to have there. So we're just going to take that and duplicate it over to the, we have one over here on the outer side and one over here all the way in the inner side like that. Okay, let's just join that with the rest of this part over here, and now we have that little back part of the skirt. Okay, we're not going to join it with the rest because we have some modifiers on this which we don't have over there, so that's going to kind of mess it up. But we can join some of these objects here just so they fit into one, and they're easier to control if we want to move them somewhere. Now over here in the back, we have to mainly make these exhaust pipes, and then maybe we'll just make some simple shapes for some of these other objects that we have back there. So we have the pipes, and to do that, we're going to select these faces in the back, and we're going to press Shift 7 to align our view with those faces. And now we did that because let's say we want to place our 3D cursor over there. When we create a plane, we can just align the plane with our view, and now it's going to be facing directly towards us, which means it's perfectly aligned with this face in the back here. So now we just have to figure out how we're going to place it. I'm going to place it close to the side, and also kind of in the middle in terms of the height, so close to this little mud guard that we created in the back. Now we have this shape over there, and we're gonna maybe we're not gonna add a mirror modifier to that yet. We're just gonna duplicate it later, but we're gonna extrude this outwards, but not too much. It doesn't have too steep an angle, and we have to make it a little bit more circular in the back. Okay. So we're going to bring it a little bit closer inwards, and we're going to bevel it like that. Okay, so now it has that circular shape, and then we're going to make another, we should probably delete this face. We're going to make another little kind of loop cut over there, and we're going to extrude this. We're just going to scale it outwards with Alt-S, just to give it some more thickness on that part. And then we can just insert a face in the front here, and insert a hole there. And then we can also probably just kind of make some loop cuts on the side here, and because we want to make these parts that kind of attach it to the rest of the hull. Okay, so we're gonna extrude these out on the x-axis, and then if you want to, we can also add some screws there. And but we're not going to do that now because, well, we can do it. Let's do that really quick. Let's align our view with this face. Then we're going to add a circle with 6 vertices. We're going to align that with our view as well. Okay, and then we're going to scale it down so it fits right there. Okay, we're going to fill that shape in and duplicate it a couple of times. Let's say we're going to have 4 screws holding this in place. Let's try to make it so they're evenly spaced. We have 4 over here and 4 on the other side over here. And then we can just select all of those and go back to our normal view, which is not aligned with this. And with all those selected, we can just kind of extrude them outwards a little bit like that. There we go. So now we're going to set some auto smooth to that as well. Shade smooth, auto smooth, like that, 45 degrees. And we're also going to want to create the pipe. So to do that, we're going to make a circle. So this one's going to have, let's say, 16 vertices. I'm going to scale that down. As you can see, it's a little bit wider at the bottom. So we're going to extrude this outwards and upwards like that. Scale it down a little bit. And we should probably separate this to a new object because later we're going to want to angle it a little bit differently. So we're going to make this a little bit narrower still. And then extrude it upwards. And then we're going to kind of angle it to the side like this. So control and left click to get this kind of where you can extrude it in any direction that you want, just so it snaps to your cursor. And we're going to take some of these edge loops and we're going to bevel them a little bit like that. Okay, and then we're also going to just make a hole here at the top and extrude that inwards a little bit like that. We can't go too far because otherwise it's going to come out the back. Now we have this shape, but we have to make it a little bit narrower. So maybe we'll just scale it all down and we'll make it a little bit longer. Okay, so we'll scale it all down and then we're just going to make it longer like this. Scale it up a little bit from that, a little bit longer like this. And we're going to scale this part up a little bit and bring it outwards. And now we can just kind of bring it into place, kind of like that. Okay, it doesn't perfectly align, but it'll do the job. Okay, like that. Maybe something more like that. And then we can maybe also just bevel this a little bit. Add some smooth shading to that, auto smooth, we already have it, and then we're just going to merge it back together with this. Okay, so now, and we're also going to maybe make some kind of a ring around this part. Okay, extrude that outwards a little bit like that, and we have a ring there. And then we're just going to duplicate this whole shape, or the whole object. We're going to duplicate it to the other side by scaling it to -1 with our 3D cursor placed in the middle. So it just snaps to the other side. And this looks a little bit weird because it looks like this holder here is way too large for this pipe. So we can fix that by separating these two into a new object. And we're going to delete this half. And we're going to take just this half. And we're going to try to find the middle of that. And with a 3D cursor, we're just going to scale that down a little bit. Scale it down a little bit like that. And then we just push the pipe backwards. And now we can just join this back together. Delete the pipe. And use our 3D cursor again and scale everything to the other side one more time. So scale it to -1 and snap it to the other side, like that. And now we have these two pipes. We're going to parent them there. And we have a couple of more objects. There's a lot going on here, but we're not going to spend time making all these details because that would take forever to do. But we have some kind of a box going on the other side over there. So we're just going to make a new plane and align it with our view again. Okay. And we're going to scale it down on these two axes a little bit. We want to make this box over here. And scale it down on the x-axis a little bit more. And this is going to have to be placed on this side over here, right outside this pipe. Okay, so let's focus on that one more time. I'm going to extrude that outwards a little bit. And then maybe we're also going to scale it down a little more. And then let's see, maybe we can make some of these other little details. We're going to select these two faces. And with individual origins, we're going to scale these faces up and then extrude them outwards. Extrude them outwards on the x-axis like that. And now we have some kind of a shape going on there. Okay, we can just join that with the rest here. Now, it really doesn't make sense to make too many of these details because there's really so many of them and they're very small. Maybe we'll make another two little planes here just for this part, just so it's not too empty there. 2 planes, which we're going to scale up on the x-axis. Okay, and we're going to, so we have one here, and then maybe we can just kind of scale this up and use a bevel and delete that part in the middle. And now we're going to go back to 3D view like this. And we're going to extrude this out and add some bevels because you can see it's kind of rounded. The shapes are kind of rounded on these parts. And we can scale these inwards and then give them a bit of a bevel. Now my bevel is kind of snapping there. Not sure what happened there. Let's separate this to a new object. Scale it up, and then we're going to bevel these edges over there. Okay. There we go. Now my beveling works just fine. And we're just going to leave it at that because the back of the tank is not as important as the rest. Or maybe it is. It depends on what you want to do with this tank, because if you're just putting it into a video game, then the back is really going to be the most visible part, because if you're driving it in third person, you're going to see this part. In that case, you would want to spend some more time making some of these other details in the back. But I don't really want to do that right now, so I'm not going to spend too much time in the back. And let's also merge this with the body. No, we can't do that because then it sets a mirror modifier. So let's apply the mirror modifier, and then we can merge this with the back and add some auto smooth to that. Shade the whole thing smooth and add auto smooth like that. And let's see what else do we really need to create here. We're going to go to the front. And this is the last bit we're going to make before we move on to the tracks. Okay. To line our view with this face in the front, we're going to add a circle there, 24 vertices, and align it with a view. And then we're going to scale that circle down. And this circle, we're going to use that for this machine gun over here. Okay. So maybe we can just kind of, let's see if it's aligned correctly. I think it's just fine. We're going to extrude it outwards. And then we're going to extrude it outward just a little bit because we want to have the base first. Then we're going to duplicate it and extrude it out one more time and scale that part down and bevel that part to make it a little bit more like a hemisphere or something like that. And now we have a little window down here, and we can create that by just selecting a few of these faces and extruding them inwards like that. And once again, we're going to set some smooth shading and auto smooth to that. And we're just going to make a cylinder there, which is going to be the machine gun. So a cylinder with 12 vertices should be just fine. Okay, rotate that, scale it down, and then pull this face forwards like that. Maybe we'll make it still a little bit thinner like that. Shade that smooth, and now we have a little machine gun there in the front. And we have another little detail over here, which is some kind of a little headlight. So we're going to do that with a cylinder. 12 or 16 vertices is going to be enough for that. Scale that down and then flatten it out a little bit. And then we're going to bring it up just like that. And we have to make something which is going to make it kind of stand in place there. Just going to fix it to the hull of the tank. So maybe we'll just take these two faces from the bottom and extrude them downwards. Extrude them downwards like that. And then we're also going to make some kind of a little plate just to cover up this ugly atrocity at the bottom that we created. Little plate like that. And we can kind of just add some more smooth shading to that and auto smooth. And maybe we can also just make another little face here at the end like that and bevel that a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to join that with the hull of the tank as well. Now the few more tiny bits that we have to take care of here before we can move to the tracks are going to be a few of these little hatches in the front here. So that's going to be very easy. And then after that, maybe we'll also make the hooks over here at this little part of the tank here. So let's align our view with the top over here. Okay. And then we're going to create a plane. And we're going to scale that plane down. We're going to bring it to the front there. And we're just going to see what's happening in the blueprint. Okay. We can see that it kind of aligns. It kind of is angled over here on this side. And they're kind of symmetrical on both sides. So we really just have to create one. That's going to be pretty quick. Bring this edge inward. And we can give that edge or that face a little bit of thickness. A little bit of thickness like that. And we can just kind of, bevel the edges a little bit like that. And then, or maybe a little bit less. We don't want that large. We don't want bevels that large there. I'll bevel this one and the others separately. Like that. Because these have to be large, but this has to be a little bit larger because it's a tighter angle. And we're also going to create a small circle here at the bottom. Place our 3D cursor there. A circle with about 12 vertices is going to be enough. Okay. I don't even know what this part is for. It doesn't really matter. A little circle there. And then we're going to take this whole thing and just flatten it out a little bit. Okay. Make it a little bit thinner. And we're also going to just select everything here and scale it to the other side. So scale it over the 3D cursor by a factor of -1. Shade that smooth, or we're gonna shade that smooth later with all the other stuff, just to save us a few clicks. Over here, let's place our 3D cursor and create a circle with 16 vertices and scale that down, bring it backwards, shoot it up, scale the top face down, give it a bit of a bevel, and delete the bottom face. And then we're also going to want to create a few viewports over here, which we're just going to duplicate this shape from the top. Okay, duplicate that, separate to new object, move it out, and we're going to place a 3D cursor in the middle of that, so its origin can be set there. And that way we can place our 3D cursor there and just snap this thing over here. Rotate it a little bit, and we're going to bring it into place like that. We have another one in the front, so we're going to make another one over there. Rotate that. It's facing forwards like that. I'm going to bring that there, and we're going to join all these objects together and give them some smooth shading, and we're going to give them some auto smooth as well to 45 degrees like that. And then we can parent that to the rest of the body. Now over here, next to the mud guards, we're going to take this plane, okay, and we're going to slim that down. We're going to narrow it down a little bit like that. And then we can just kind of figure out a way to get this shape over here. So we can just kind of extrude it. Let's just first narrow it down a little more and bring it inwards a little bit, extrude it out. And then we're going to add a couple of loop cuts. So first we can bring this in. And we're going to add a loop cut right there. And now we want it to go downwards a little bit. Okay. We're going to push it down and inwards. And then we, in the end, we want it to kind of come back up again. So we're going to slide this down as that part is a little bit narrower. We're going to extrude a face over here and give it some bevels. Okay, like that. And then we also have some kind of a little shape sticking out over there. Something like that. Maybe we can slide some of these vertices outwards like that. We're going to create a loop cut there, which we're going to scale down on itself, and then we're going to give it a little bevel. So now that kind of gives us the shape that we have over there. And we can also just bevel these edges a little bit. Okay, so add some smooth shading to that. Auto smooth 45 degrees, and then we want to create a hook there. And to create that hook, we're going to take, let's say we're going to take these two vertices, separate that to a new object, and we're going to bring those two vertices forward, okay? Then we can extrude that back, so it creates a little plane like that, but we're going to delete the back edge. So now we have this little shape right here, which we're going to extrude like that. And then we're going to add some bevels to the ends, like this. Okay, and now we can extrude the whole thing like this, remove any doubles and correct the normals. Extrude the whole shape, and then Alt-S to just kind of scale it outwards, make it give it the same thickness as its height. And we're going to select all the edge loops on the outside and give them just a 1 edge bevel to make it like a kind of octagon. Shade that smooth. Shade that smooth 45 degrees. Seems to be not enough here because an octagon has 45-degree angles. But and then in the end here, we're also going to just add a small cylinder. A small cylinder just to kind of hold everything together. We're going to rotate that into place like that. And we're going to scale it up on the x-axis, so it's going to be like that. Again, shade that smooth. And then we're going to place the origin of this object over there on the 3D cursor. And that way we can just kind of hang it downwards like that. And that's going to be the hook. And we're also going to copy this object to the other side of the front plate. Let's join this together, select everything and scale it to -1 over the 3D cursor and bring it over there. And we're going to parent that to the hull. Well, now we got most of the hull out of the way, so let's go ahead and move to the wheels and the tracks. And this is going to be very quick and easy because most tanks, for pretty much every tank, we can create the wheels and the tracks in exactly the same way. The only difference is, well, the wheels and the tracks look a little bit different, so the modeling of the wheel is slightly a different process, but it's almost the same thing as any other tank. But we're going to make a cylinder with 32 vertices, and we're going to rotate that like this. Okay, let's try to get the right size there. So we're going to bring that into place here. and give it the right size and width. And then we're going to bring this forwards. And now the Tiger 2 tank has some really oddly shaped wheels because it has some variety in its wheels. But essentially, we need to first make a little bevel there, which is going to create the gap between the gap inside the middle of this wheel. And then we're going to zoom in here, insert a face and extrude it inwards a little bit. Then extrude it, let's use our medium point for that. What do we do now? Okay, extrude this face inwards one more time. And then we're going to extrude it outwards and then again inwards to make this kind of edge. And then we're going to do that one more time like that to make these two kind of rings on this wheel. And then in the middle it has something else going on. There. So we're going to extrude it out, extrude it inwards, extrude it out some more like that. It's just basically a cylinder that we're extruding. We're extruding the circle outwards, scaling it, and so forth, and so on. And we're gonna do that in the end here. And now we're just gonna add a couple of bevels somewhere to a few of these parts, just to make this look a little nicer and smoother. Okay, so we're gonna select these edge loops, add bevels there, and then gonna smooth that shade. We're gonna shade that smoothly and add some auto smooth, 45 degrees maybe. And we're going to push this ring backwards a little bit. Now the other thing we have to do is just create a whole bunch of different screws for this wheel. So we're going to create just a simple circle over there with just 6 vertices. Okay, we'll scale that down, rotate it, bring it down over there. We're going to separate that to a new object so we can rotate it later around the 3D cursor, which is going to be in the middle. And just extrude that outwards a little bit. And now we place our 3D cursor in the middle of this wheel. Okay, maybe we'll scale this down a little bit more. But we'll give it some more thickness, like that. Our 3D cursor is in the middle. We're going to duplicate everything and rotate it around the x-axis by 180 degrees. And now we're going to duplicate everything again and rotate it by 90 degrees. One more time by 45 degrees. Okay, and one more time by 22.5 degrees. Now we have a whole bunch of little screws there. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to duplicate these screws and scale them inwards a little bit to the inner part of this circle. And we also have a couple more screws here, but we're not going to bother with those because that's going to take too much time and they're really not going to be that visible. So this is pretty much the shape that we need for our first wheel. Now we're going to duplicate this wheel. This is going to be the back wheel. Okay, so there's 2 types of wheels. There's the front wheels and the back wheels. The back wheel, we're going to duplicate that and arrange it wherever it needs to be. Okay, like that. And then we're going to take this wheel again and duplicate it again and bring it to the front. Okay, this is going to be the front wheel. So actually what we created now was supposed to be the front wheel, but because the back wheel should be different. And what should be different about the back wheels, I'll show you in a second. We have to adjust all these wheels. And the way we can do that is select one, select the second, the third, and the fourth, and press Ctrl L and link object data. And now when we make a change on one of the wheels, it's automatically done on the other 3 wheels as well. Let's focus on this part, okay? And we're just basically going to make this part extrude out more, okay? We're going to select this entire part of the wheel here, this entire part. And as you can see here, that just sticks out further. So we're just going to bring that out to the front so it sticks out in front of this front wheel as well. So from front view, we can just kind of align that together, as you can see, like that. And then we're just going to take the front wheel and bring it back, copy it a couple more times so that it fits in here. Now, yeah, the problem is that it kind of collides too much with this stuff over here. So we're just going to make that a little bit thinner, and hopefully there's not going to be any collision there now. We still have to push this forward a little bit, and now it should be fine, okay? So you have to be very careful with the placement of the front wheels. You have to make sure it's exactly in the middle in order to make it not collide with anything there. But it doesn't matter too much because it's not really that visible anyway. And another front wheel there. And then we have 2 sprockets, which it seems are quite different. But we're going to just make one, and we're going to make these 2 things the same. So to do the sprocket, we're going to add a circle with, let's say, 32 vertices again. Okay. And to make the sprocket, we're going to look at one of our reference images over here. So we're maybe going to look at it in this image over here, it seems to be the highest resolution. Let's bring this circle up. Okay, extrude it inwards once. And then we're going to make a circle in the middle as well, because that's going to be the part where everything else connects. We're going to add some thickness to that. Now we have 6 of these little parts connecting the sprocket to its center. We're going to extrude a little shape like that, and then we're going to insert a face. Let's separate this to a new object so we can more easily work with it. Separate this to a new object, and we're going to delete this loop cut in the middle, and simply insert a face there, and extrude that inwards a little bit. Maybe we'll make this face a little bit narrower. And extrude that inwards like that. And we're also going to make the top part a little bit, or the outer part a little bit narrower than the inner part. So now our 3D cursor is in the middle. One more time, we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side. So we have 6 of these arms holding it together. Rotate it once by 180, once by 60, and then once more by 60 degrees. And now we have this kind of star keeping everything together. And then you can also optionally just make some more shapes there. We don't want it to extrude it too far inwards. Some more shapes there, and with our medium point, we're going to scale it inwards a little, give it a bit of a bevel there, and we can also maybe make a couple of screws there. So we're going to make a screw with 6 vertices, or a circle with 6 vertices. 6 vertices on that. Now I accidentally placed it at the bottom because I'm rushing a little bit too much here. But we're going to create a little circle over here. Bring that inwards, and then we're going to place a 3D cursor in the middle so that we can kind of copy this a couple of times, the same way we did with the arms, the same way we did with the screws on the wheels. So duplicate, rotate by 180, duplicate, rotate by 90, duplicate, rotate by 45 degrees, like that. And then we also have something going on here, so let's separate this, and we're going to select one. How many faces do we have here? I think we created 32 vertices. So one, we're gonna select every 4 faces. I think that should be fine. Or no, this is gonna be every 3. So 1 every 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 in the end. We're gonna inverse select and insert faces there, and just extrude that inwards. Okay, and now we can join that back together with the rest of our object, and now we have our first sprocket there. Scale that to -1, okay, and then we're just going to connect everything with this circle here, okay, like that. And now that's going to be our first sprocket that we can use to hold the tracks together. And we're going to use the same one for the front, even though the front one is a little bit different. But you will now understand how to make a sprocket, so you can probably just use the same technique to make a slightly different shape for the other sprocket. I'm going to bring that to the front there. And we're going to also copy it and bring it out to the back over here. Okay. And now we have our sprockets in place. We're also going to push them backwards a little bit more. Like that. Like that. We're going to push them backwards, and they should be a little bit in front of the wheels. I can see the alignment is slightly different over here. And now let's move the rest of this tank. I'm going to try to move some of this stuff upwards so we can work with the tracks a bit more easily. We're going to merge everything together here so we can move it around more easily. Join that. Let's see if we have to apply a modifier here. We're going to join that with the hull. This other stuff, we're going to merge it together. And now all this other stuff in the back, we can also just kind of apply the modifiers there and merge it with the hull. And we're going to parent the turret to the hull. And we also have to merge everything together with the turret on the top there. Okay, so now when we move the hull away, it moves everything away. Now, you already know the drill for making tracks, so we're just going to very quickly do that. We're going to make a path. Okay, so we're going to use, we're going to create a curve. Where's the curve section? Curve over here with a path. Rotate that by 90 degrees. Okay, and then inside of it, we're going to scale it down a little. And then we're going to use that to kind of trace this shape, the shape of the tracks. Okay. So we're going to extrude this curve all the way around all these wheels here, like that. Okay, we have to extrude it a couple of times so it doesn't bend too much and into the wheels. Extrude that a couple of times, extrude it up like this, like this, like this, and like this. Try to get it as correctly as you can, but don't worry about it too much. And it kind of hangs over the tracks there. bring it to the front, where it once again goes back up and around this sprocket over here. We're going to shoot it all the way around that sprocket over here. One more time, bring it down. And then we're going to shoot it backwards and connect it back with the beginning over here. So now that kind of wraps around the tracks here. And now we just have to make a track and wrap that around the curve there. So to make a track, let's make a thin plane over there. Thin plane, extrude it out or scale it up on the x-axis so it completely captures all of the tracks. So it's wider than the tracks like that. Or they're wider than the wheels like that. And then we're going to extrude it downwards a little bit. Let's have a look at what these tracks are kind of shaped like. We have a face in the middle, which is kind of interrupted, it seems, or maybe not, but it's just a little bit thinner. I'm going to extrude that like that, and then bring it outwards like that. And we can also maybe make a couple of these little claws, which are going to bind the tracks together. Okay, so we're going to add like 4 loop cuts there, and bevel them. And then when we select those faces and delete them, we can just have these little teeth here, which are going to kind of hold the tracks together. Hold the tracks together like that, but we also want to make them connect from the other side somehow. So on the other side, we're just going to take these faces, okay? Take these faces and bridge the edge loops together. And then, well, of course, we're going to have to bring that to the other side of the track so that it connects. We're going to have to bring that over there. So scale it to -1 on the y-axis. Then we're going to have to copy this a couple of times just so it would fit together with all the other pieces. Okay, so copy this 2 more times like that. And now we can just merge everything together like that. Okay, so we have a very simple track. Track is very wide and ugly, so maybe we're going to make it a little bit more narrow like that on the y-axis. But we're going to make the claws a little bit longer, or the teeth, or whatever you want to call them. We're going to make those a little bit longer. And now when we add an array modifier on the y-axis, and we're going to set the factor down to like 0.9 or something like that, we're going to increase the number, and we're going to add a curve modifier, not a cast, but a curve modifier, and we're going to set that to the path that we just created like that. I'm going to increase the number of that, and then maybe we can also just adjust the distance between the individual tracks to 0.89. And now the last track just almost connects there, so we want to set it to 0.887 or something like 8885 is going to do it probably, something like that, right? Now let's bring our hull back down. Bring our hull back down on top of the tracks. As you can see, it's kind of the tracks are a little bit too wide, so we're gonna have to do something to narrow them down a little bit like that. We can scale them down a little, and maybe we'll just push them inwards a little bit more on the x-axis like that. And now, of course, we're also going to have to copy them to the other side. So let's move our hull back up, and we're going to duplicate this entire setup, and just, we didn't duplicate everything, we only duplicated some of it. Let's select everything, duplicate it, and then just scale it to -1, and then correct all the normals and remove all the doubles. And now when we bring our hull back down, now we have a ready Tiger II tank.